Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jill Troderman with Feeding the Family. Are you going crazy, or is it just peri-menopause? Anxiety, depression, mood swings, irritability? These are common symptoms of hormone imbalances that many women experience, especially as they transition into menopause. If you can identify, no, you are not going crazy, but it may feel like you are, and your loved ones may agree. These changes affect women physically, mentally, and emotionally. The gross imbalance manifests as a spectrum presenting over 150 different ailments and symptoms. If hormone change in the climacteric women is natural and normal, why do so many millions of women suffer? Some women slide right through into menopause with mild to no significant discomfort or symptoms. However, the other unfortunate women suffer hormonal imbalance, predominantly. These are common symptoms of hormone imbalances that many women experience, especially as they transition into menopause. If you can identify, no, you are not going crazy, but it may feel like you are, and your loved ones may agree. These changes affect women physically, mentally, and emotionally. The gross imbalance manifests as a spectrum presenting over 150 different ailments and symptoms. If hormone change in the climacteric women is natural and normal, why do so many millions of women suffer? Some women slide right through into menopause with mild to no significant discomfort or symptoms. However, the other unfortunate women suffer hormonal imbalance, predominantly estrogen dominance caused by poor diet, lack of exercise, high stress, and exposure to xenoestrogens, just to name a few. But thank goodness we've got Michelle Dwyer in the house today. Welcome, Michelle. So, Michelle Dwyer, I am so excited to have you with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yay. All right. Well, I'm going to read a little bit more about you, and then we'll get right to it.
That's right. If you are lucky enough to live a longer life and you are someone who's been menstruating and then that menstruation stops, then you get to be a part of menopause. And this isn't anything brand new. However, to your point, Jill, we've got so many different factors that I think this is a new moment for perimenopause and menopause. Number one, I think our generation is more empowered. We're getting the knowledge that we need. We're asking for what we want to feel better in our bodies, to get accurate information, to get the support that we know we need and deserve. So I think it's really having a moment right now. But also to your point, there are all sorts of environmental factors, food factors, environmental toxins that we're just, even if we're doing our best job to avoid a lot of these, as I know you talk about and think about a lot, Jill, you have all these what we call endocrine disruptors, right? And so we all just have to do the best with the world that we're living in. But part of it really truthfully is previous generations, didn't talk about it, right? So if you talk to women who went through menopause, 20, 30, 40 years ago, they'll say like, you just didn't talk about it, or it's very hush hush, or there's a lot of like shame or just like secrecy around it. And I don't know about you, but I'm like, I'm not going to keep this secret. Like I said at the beginning, I will talk about this in the grocery store line. I talked about this on vacation. Like I will talk about it to anybody and everybody because there's nothing to be ashamed of. And there's so much we can do to get the support that we really need to, what I call, especially in perimenopause, like ride that perimenopausal wave and navigate all of these choices with better information, right? And being more empowered in our bodies and our choices.
Yeah, and I like your approach that it's very empowering and not to have shame about it. Because
right,
like the whole word hysterectomy, right? Like that goes back for a really long time in our history. It was even in the DSMR, which is the Psychiatric Diagnostic Manual. So menopause was considered a psychiatric issue for women, but it's actually in our history records going back to 1900 BC in the ancient Egyptians. I found a little article about that, and I thought that was really fascinating. And but then we have the secrecy about it when it's a common, normal process that women go through. If you have a uterus, that's what's going to be happening, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and as you said in your introduction, I mean, there's so many different factors because we do have hormone receptors everywhere in our body. And so, you know, so many people, when they think of menopause, they might just go immediately to hot flashes, which is true for some people. About 75% of people going through perimenopause and menopause will experience a hot flash. But like, as you said, there's 150 different ways that this can manifest. And to your point, you know, I work with so many clients who are like, this is, you know, I'm getting, you know, itchy ears and my eyes are dry and my shoulders frozen. Could this be perimenopause? And I'm like, yes, it could, right? So just really, you know, I think a lot of us are trying to do a better job of listening to our bodies, paying attention to our health and well-being, and just to understand that a lot of these cluster of symptoms, sure, there could be other things, right? Like, so I always have clients get, you know, labs done, you know, make sure that their nutrient levels are good, making sure we're, you know, adjusting sleep and digestion and exercise and all the important pieces, but also validating that, yes, it could be perimenopause, and no, you're not going crazy. And yes, there are things you can do to feel better in your body. But I will say for a lot of women, where it shows up at first, before even hot flashes or changes in their cycle, is the mood, is the anxiety, the you know, cognitive shifts and changes. Sometimes it's not even a full on like depression. And this is what happened to me. It's like that flat feeling, right? Where it's like, where there's like anhedonia, right? Where you're just like, I'm not depressed, but like, I'm not like the things that get me excited and make me feel joyful, they're not doing that anymore. So I just want to validate that if someone's like, you know what, I'm doing all the things I used to do and things are not working anymore, that could very well be. I work with a lot of clients too that have like later diagnosed ADHD, and a lot of those strategies are no longer working for them because that can become much, much more challenging in perimenopause. And so it's just recognizing like the tools that you had in your toolbox, or if you've been paying attention to everybody's health and well-being and not your own, this perimenopause sometimes can be a pretty big, or sometimes people that comes in menopause can be kind of a good wake-up call, right? In terms of really needing to honor this transition. I really love calling it the transition, and I'm reading this great book called The Upgrade. So the transition referring to the perimenopause stage, and then the upgrade of the menopause stage. Like, isn't that such a more positive way to think about all of this?
It really is. Yeah, it has to be like a positive thing, because it's like it's not like the end is near because you're going through perimenopause. And I think a lot of women are like, this is like a terrible part of our existence, but it's really quite liberating. Let's dial back a little bit, Michelle, where these imbalances stem from. I always like to go to the core. So when we're having what you were talking about, estrogen dominance and endocrine disruptors, you mentioned stress.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's like, so there's a lot of different factors that might be playing into what we're going to call hormone imbalance, or fluctuations in our hormones as they're ebbing and flowing. So what's, can you share with us a little bit about the, I don't know where to go first, environmental factors that are impacting us, or estrogen dominance, or low progesterone?
I think it could be all of the above. And it's such a good reminder that if you ever Google, and whenever I lead a talk that's, you know, where it's a webinar, I love to show this image of all of our hormones, because we sometimes just think about, first of all, we may not even think about estrogen and progesterone, right? But like, even if we think about estrogen and progesterone and we know enough, you know, there's also testosterone, there's also androgens, there's also all of our thyroid hormones, there's our cortisol and our cortisone, there's our pregnenolone. So when we think about hormones, it's a vast, intricate system, and it's got a lot of different feedback loops. And so some of these issues for some people could have been subclinical, meaning like they never were diagnosed or they don't quote unquote show up on a test. But, these things that when the fluctuations of perimenopause, because, what is happening that is normal, right? This is part of the perimenopausal stage, is that if someone was getting, and I always start with if someone was getting regular cycles, because some people never had a regular cycle, but if someone was having a regular cycle, we can see that estrogen goes up and down throughout the cycle, the progesterone goes up and down, the luteinizing hormone, all these different things, they go through their pattern, right? And so when we were getting a regular cycle, if we ever had one, we could track that. Okay, like this is the first part of my period where I have more energy, I can get more things done. And then, okay, here's the time where I'm ovulating. And this is where I might have a little bit more motivation or creativity. Oh, this is a few days before my period. Man, I need to lay a little low. I need to take it easy. Oh, my cravings are more. So that might be if we're paying attention during that stage. But for a lot of us, that was also disrupted. But let's just assume that was what was going on.
Okay.
We get to that perimenopause stage, especially kind of those later stages of it. And there is no there's no rhyme or reason. It's kind of the chaos stage. Personally, it's where I'm at right now. I am in the chaos stage of late perimenopause, so I am still cycling, but it could be I cannot count on a cycle anymore. I don't have and so it's like, even if I'm going to think about what's my estrogen doing today, what's my progesterone doing today, what's all my different, it's just going to be in flux, right?
Right.
And so from a root cause perspective, I think there's, digestion could make a huge factor because, and both ways, like all of these things that I'm going to talk about, it can go both directions because how our body is, actually, let's even go even further. Root cause, Jill, is like genetics, right?
Okay, fair.
We all have a different set of genetics. We all have different ways that our body is using and metabolizing hormones. We might have a history of having been on birth control pills.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of women are still on an IUD or birth control through perimenopause, so that might affect things. Pregnancy, not having pregnancy. I've never been pregnant, right? So my experience of perimenopause is as a body that's never been pregnant. So there's so many different factors. And I guess part of it is that I want to take that step back and also really encourage every woman when they're going through this transition to honor your experience, to honor your own experience. Just like we all, Jill, I know we're about the same age, right? Like when we think back to when we, had our sex ed classes and we learned about periods and puberty and body changes, right?
Right.
We were kind of taught this is what puberty is, as if we were all going to be on the same track. Mm-hmm. And as you and I both know, there were the girls who had to start wearing a bra way earlier than I needed to, right? I got my period late, right? So puberty is not one thing. We all have our own timeline, our experience of it. Why would we expect perimenopause to be this cookie cutter textbook thing? So
that's really great. I love that you say that, Michelle, because it's so unique. And I think we all want to lump ourselves into one thing and here's your protocol and this is what you need to do. Right. But no, what you're saying is 100% not. Every single person it's going to fluctuate, vary depending on all of those factors you just stated, right?
Absolutely. And so each person might need to prioritize something different. So if stress is a huge factor, now cortisol becomes a factor for all of us in perimenopause because our body is just kind of wired a little differently. And so we have to very actively be calming down our nervous system, be addressing our nervous system. But listen, who of us is taught to even pay attention to our nervous system or given tools for how to do that or given the permission, I love that word permission, to take the space to do that. And so, really getting grounded and centered in our bodies. I think it's so important. Be in nature. I know you're the same way. Nature is so calming to our bodies. It's so calming to our nervous system. Being with people that we love. I would say, especially being around girlfriends that fill our cup up, not the ones that are depleting or that suck our energy, but the ones that we're just like, oh my God, thank God we're doing this together. I love movement. So things like dance, anything that brings us joy. It's really got to be, even if it's just a few minutes every day, like these daily practices to calm our nervous system. And that's true for everybody. But if we've got, if we've been through higher stressors, if our body's been through it more, we might need to start with addressing the cortisol. Or if we've been like borderline having thyroid issues, that can start to get exacerbated in perimenopause. Or if we've had some digestive issues, or we need to do some gut healing. So everybody is going to have kind of a different, maybe area that they need to focus on to kind of help support this next chapter a little bit differently. And again, I want to say from, you and I both think in terms of root causes, but it's also to remind everybody, like, you didn't do anything wrong, right? We're all just doing the best with the information that we have at any given time, right? So
I think so, yeah. And I like that you brought up,
how do we do better from this point forward?
Right. Yeah, I like to think of it as like the sex hormones, our stress hormones, like you brought up, the cortisol, and then blood sugar.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Like there's these factors, and these are all hormones that really interplay with each other. And sometimes they have similar symptoms. So for a woman, like
I can talk,
right?
No,
like it's hard to tell. Like Michelle, you're totally going off on the whole stress thing. Like sometimes women are like, well, I don't know. Is that stress related? Is that this related? How can people even tell?
And I love talking blood sugar. You and I could talk hours just on blood sugar alone. But
Totally.
I'm super, super passionate about it, because when our blood sugar is dysregulated, and I work with clients a lot around blood sugar. I have them wear a continuous glucose monitor. I've seen over hundreds of people's data, and I can tell you that people think they're eating in a way that is healthy and good for their bodies, and then we put a CGM, this continuous glucose monitor, on there, and we see, oh my gosh, there are these spikes and these drops. And to your point, Jill, if that blood sugar is going up and down, that's also your energy going up and down. That's your mood going up and down. And so, blood sugar might be something that's not even been on someone's radar, but suddenly they're like, oh, wait a second, this is a factor. And the more even we can keep that blood sugar, my clients all report more even moods, more even energy, better sleep. So many clients see the connection between their blood sugar and their sleep quality, or even getting hot flashes at night. And then what else is really, really wild is I've seen this again and again, where a client will eat the same thing, let's say on day 1 as day 2, same exact breakfast, but day 2, they were super, super stressed out. They had a really stressful phone call. They're really, really like aggravated. Same exact food one day, blood sugar totally normal, very even. The next day, it can be 10, 20, 30 points higher. And I've seen it happen again and again and again, right? And so there's these, there's just all these factors in play that, you're right, unless we're like stopping and pausing and thinking about these different pieces and really creating some healthy foundations for ourselves, it can be hard to figure out like what's what.
I think that, it's so interesting. I don't think I really realized what was happening. I had PMS issues. So I was a little prepared for the perimenopause and the menopause, because I had to go dial that back, for the PMS, which is similar with all of these different hormone imbalances. And people don't talk about it. I don't remember my gynecologist telling me about all these different things. And also, and not just that we have all these symptoms, but there's so many things that we can do about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No,
like diet.
I love, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things, that I talk about, and I'll tell you, Jill, it's not sexy. You know what I
I
mean?
know. Okay. Fair. What are you going to tell me about fiber and pooping?
I'm going to tell you to eat your fiber. I'm going to tell you to eat your protein.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you to make sure you're eating enough and that you're eating at the right time of the day for your body, right? It's not fancy. It's not exciting, but it's like, are you eating? Yeah, like absolutely. Are you eating at least 25, 35 grams of fiber. Now, if someone's starting off way, way lower than that, don't ramp up to 35 grams of fiber right away. Your digestion needs time to adjust. Slowly ramp up. But when we're eating, more plant foods, being very plant forward, you don't have to eat only plant foods, right? You can still eat animal protein, but we're getting our fiber. It's satiating, it's satisfying, it slows down that blood sugar, keeps that blood sugar more even. It's supporting our healthy microbiome, right? It's creating that healthy digestion, because of course, one of the ways that we clear out excess estrogen is through our bowel movements, right? So we want our regular bowel movements, and this can be through vegetables, nuts and seeds. If someone can do whole grains, they could do whole grains and beans. But yeah, absolutely more fiber, especially, I'm a big proponent of more of the, non-starchy veggies. And then again, it's kind of having a moment, but it's true. Like, we need enough protein so that our bodies can, again, keep the blood sugar balance, keep us feeling satiated. But, the other piece that, starts way before midlife, that starts in our 30s, is maintaining our muscle mass. Right. And so it's like, when we think about that next chapter, that upgrade, it's like, are we strong? It's not about being skinny. It's not about being thin. It's about being strong. Mm-hmm. And we want strong muscles. We want strong bones. We want strong heart, strong brain, right? These are all the things that we want in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, right? If we want to, be for that longevity, it's all about strength. And protein is one of the ways that we rebuild, repair, and keep that muscle mass. So, it doesn't have to be absurd amounts of protein. As I tell my clients all the time, I'm not going to force you to eat like a slab of chicken before you go to bed because you didn't meet your macros. Like, you know what I mean? You're still a human being. Like, you get to pay attention to your own body's needs. But more protein and more fiber, people tend to feel a lot better.
They do, yeah. Especially as we get older, they do say that we do need a little bit more protein, but also, that the 3 macronutrients, which are, I like to keep saying that over and over, are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And you get your carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables, which is what Michelle's talking about. And if you're going to enjoy whole grains, make sure they're whole grains and organic if you can.
Absolutely.
Michelle, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I want to dive more into food and maybe even some herbs protocols that people can use. So everyone, hold on tight. I am with fabulous nutritionist Michelle Dwyer, and I'm your host, Jill Troderman, with Feeding the Family. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we are back. I'm Jill Troderman with Feeding the Family with Michelle Dwyer. So we are discussing the really important needs of balancing your hormones as women approach perimenopause and menopause. And there's so many things that we can do to encourage that healthy transition into this exciting part of a woman's life, right, Michelle?
Absolutely.
It's exciting, and we have to look at it as as a positive, not a scary negative.
I mean, I know we're going to get into, talking about some herbs and things like that, but just to take a step back, I always share this anytime I'm talking about longevity, perimenopause, menopause, which is that, I lost my mom young. I was 21 and my mom was 48 and a half, right? Wow. And so for me personally, ever since I have been a young person, I have been aware that getting older and going through these challenges and changes and shifts is a privilege. And so it's not always easy and it's not always fun, but it's like, man, I am lucky, right? I've got years that my mother never got. And so, even on the days where I'm like, oof, body, man, oh man, okay, right? I'm just constantly telling my body, thank you for getting me this far and getting me here and getting me to do the things that I do get to do and I am able to do. So it's just a perspective that I've chosen to have from a very, very young age. And it doesn't mean we have to suffer. It doesn't mean we have to do this silently. right? Like, I don't believe in suffering, and I do believe that there are so many different things that we can do, but it's also like, how do we embrace this new chapter and then also see all the amazing benefits that can also come from it too. So
That's really profound to have that gratitude to even see. I'm sure a lot of people don't have that perspective of being, thank God we can age and have these experiences. A lot of people don't, right? As you lost your mama bear so early, and girlfriends that have dipped out of life before. So these are good things. So we have to embrace it, be grateful that we even get to have these experiences. So for food, like you were talking about fibrous foods, like cruciferous vegetables, leafy greens. And then what about things like, because I like the fiber to get rid of that excess estrogen, right? Because that excess estrogen can make people feel really like the hormone imbalance, the craziness, the mood issues, the anger, the short temper, that kind of stuff. And then what about healthy fats? How important are that macronutrient, fats?
Yeah, absolutely. So, your brain needs fat. And so if we want a happy brain, we want to get those happy, healthy fats in there. And also the healthy fats, again, from that blood sugar regulation, it allows us to feel satisfied. It allows us to feel satiated. And when we're eating, a lot of clean protein, a lot of veggies, right? I will also just say, like, the fat makes things taste good. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And so, a lot of like the flavor that I'm going to bring to a dish is going to come from making a tahini sauce or adding some avocado with my salsa and, my Mexican bowl or whatever it is, right? That the mouthfeel of healthy fats, the brain support, the blood sugar regulation is all so beneficial, and we don't need to be afraid of fat. We just want to make sure it's good quality fats, right? That's not highly processed oils. That's coming from, I tend to prefer the plant fats as much as possible as we can. So avocados, nuts and seeds, things like that. But absolutely, absolutely. When we're talking about those macronutrients, also just as important. And, eating seasonally, right now you and I are recording this on the cusp of heading into winter soon. And, the things that we might want to eat in the winter, we might want more soups and more stews and more warming foods, bringing in things like ginger, which is really, really warming, and ginger is also a great anti-inflammatory, versus like the summer, might want more of like the lighter foods, and we're eating more, like a salad or kind of like these lighter foods. So even thinking about eating seasonally, for some women, it can be helpful if they're still cycling to just pay attention to their cycle and just honoring that they might have, they might need to eat a little bit more a couple days before their cycle, and making sure they're kind of set up for that, right? And so, I think just really honoring that we're not the same people every day. Right?
And seasonally. I really love that. And that's important. Yes.
So, do you want to talk a little about supplements and support that can also help people?
I do. I know there's so many wonderful herbs, like adaptogenic herbs. And so what are some of your top ones for, let's say a woman's coming to talk to you, she's having headaches and cramps. And what do you think about like black cohosh? Is that one of the top ones that you like?
I use it with some people, not all people, but it can be really, really helpful. I've used Vitex also for regulating some periods, especially headaches. I work with a lot of clients with headaches. I mean, definitely getting that blood sugar stable, making sure they're hydrated.
Right.
A lot of people actually do need electrolytes. I know they're super popular right now, but some people just do absorb their hydration a little bit better when they've got that right balance of electrolytes.
Yes, you're saying so many important things. I want to pause you after every sentence and go further. Because you're like, oh my God, that's a great nugget. That's a great nugget. Let's dive in. Well, I'm going to have you back to talk about all these things again. Like, okay, let's slow down and talk about electrolytes. Like, you could really just do some simple maple sugar and some sea salt to get some.
Totally.
Right?
I love the sea salt. Yep.
And I think we're undersalted. I really do.
I agree.
Okay.
I literally was just, literally just having this conversation with a client today. And it's not even undersalted, it's under minerals, right? Like, what we need is that full, like, getting the magnesium, getting the sodium, right?
Right.
Because, and, when you have the problem with sodium is processed foods, right?
Yes.
Or eating out, right? Because you're trying to get this food that's not fresh or that's packaged, and the salt makes things flavorful.
Yeah, and that could cause salt retention. Then you're going to blow up and have edema.
Totally. And it's not even salt, the sodium versus, right? When we cook our own food, we add that little bit of crack of sea salt at the end, right? Or we add that little bit of tamari to our or right, we bring in some umami and salty flavor to something, right? Like we like it makes things taste so good, but it's also in balance, right? And it's not just straight up sodium.
Right.
I also think magnesium is kind of one of my favorite minerals. So since you brought up headaches, magnesium can be so helpful. I often encourage my clients to take it before bed because it can make you sleepy. So magnesium can be helpful it's calming. It can be helpful for sleep support, especially difficulty falling asleep. It can be helpful for headaches. It can be helpful for muscle recovery. If someone tends towards constipation, then I encourage something like a magnesium citrate, which can kind of also help with the bowel movements a little bit. If bowel movements are good, we might do better with a glycinate form that's going to be well absorbed. Most of the stuff that you would get just at like a random drugstore is going to be magnesium oxide and is not my preferred form. It's not well absorbed by the body. There's just much better forms. But magnesium is one of my favorite, great for bone health, right? Bone health support. So that's one of those ones that's like a good baseline, especially for a lot of women in perimenopause and menopause. So that's one of my favorites.
Good. Good.
Absolutely love the adaptogenics, right? So depending on what's going on for a person, and as you know, Jill, I'm speaking to the choir here, but that word adaptogenic, as we know, means it can help us upregulate when we need to upregulate or downregulate when we need to downregulate. So if I have a client that's like wired and tired, right? They're super stressed out, but they're also exhausted, right? They have tons of fatigue just because they are burnt out, but they also are just kind of racing. I love those adaptogenics, and different ones work better for different people, but those tend to be things like rhodiola, ashwagandha. Love lemon balm. Nice. I don't know if you use much lemon balm. Lemon balm's also I know you're getting growing stuff. Lemon balm is so easy to grow.
It is. It's a weed.
It's a weed. You can plant it and grow it forever. You can make a tea out of it. It's so gentle. And what I love about lemon balm, and holy basil too, is also really easy.
Love holy basil. Yeah, all of these are so great.
So easy to make teas, but what I love about the lemon balm, I use it for a lot of people who when their anxiety or their stress shows up in their tummy, right? When their stomach, it's like those people that get like nervous stomachs, right? Where they're anxious and they like their stomach clenches, or they tend to get like digestive issues or stomach aches. That lemon balm, and I'll have them make like a big pot of tea of it and just kind of drink it as their water, because it's calming to the nervous system and the brain, but it's also really calming to the digestive system. So big fan of all the adaptogenic herbs. And then, especially around anxiety, I'm a big fan of trying out things like L-theanine, which can be helpful, or GABA, which can be helpful. So those are two that are pretty fast acting, fairly gentle. But I always tell clients, with those kind of things, try them out on the weekend, because something that might calm one person. Sometimes people have the opposite effect, or it might make you too calm and make you sleepy, and then you're too tired, right?
Yeah, those are amino acids for folks out there. So the theanine is wonderful. That's really calming. And GABA also. Those are really strong. And same with like 5-HTP. People take that. It's a precursor to tryptophan. So those are really wonderful amino acids, and they do work so quickly. So for people who are having really serious stress, panic attacks, depression, these are acute treatments, even though I'm not allowed to say treat, cure, diagnose.
Nope,
but
we don't treat or diagnose anything.
But we sure can recommend.
Yep, absolutely.
So these are great things. And Michelle, I have to say, when not one thing is going to be the cure-all for everybody.
No,
And
absolutely. And I think that's, it's the,
it's like how we have to pay attention to ourselves and really get to
I
know
know.
yourself.
Well, and I think, you and I are so committed to holistic health, right? And
Yes.
we know and we understand it. And I do have a hope and a dream that even, like medicine, and the way that we know it is moving more towards lifestyle medicine and understanding and functional medicine and moving towards an understanding that no pill is going to solve anybody's problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? And unless you're dealing with all aspects of someone's health and well-being, their food and nutrition, their sleep and their rest, their
Mm-hmm.
movement and their exercise, but also really important things like their connection and community. Do they have, meaning and purpose in their life? Are you taking time to connect with yourself and do the things that bring you joy and allow you to feel like a real whole person? So it's never going to just be one thing. And the thing I always encourage is don't get overwhelmed, because I think that's another thing that happens in perimenopause. At least that's been my experience,
Mm-hmm.
is the feeling of overwhelm. And then, and this is
Totally. It can
not,
be it
right.
can
And
be
this is not this,
scary,
yeah, it can be so scary, and the feeling like
right?
a failure because I'm not doing like the 12 things that I need to do to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know for me, when like a new perimenopausal thing is when I feel overwhelmed, like I can just shut down, right? I
Wow.
can just be
Right.
like, I'm overwhelmed, so I'm not going to do anything. And
Mm-hmm.
so really just encouraging everybody to just be like, what's the one thing that you can do? Are you going to start with just making sure you're hydrated, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what an important place to start. Are you drinking enough water? Are you starting your day with protein? Is that like one small change that you can make? Can you, especially now that it's getting darker earlier, can you go to bed at a time that works really, really well for your body? So it doesn't have to be like, and none of us do great with 12 things on our to-do list, right?
Sure. Right.
So I always encourage people start with the one, two, or three things that you can really take action on, accomplish, and then test it out and see if it works for you. And if three feels like it's too much, do the one thing. What's the
Mm-hmm.
one thing that you can do today? I'm also a big fan of the Atomic Habits, and he suggests what's the 2-minute habit,
Wait, what
right?
did you call it?
So,
Atomic habits?
Atomic Habits,
I don't know
James
this term.
Clear. Yeah, it's great for habit change. And one of
Okay.
his encouragements is when you're making a new habit, make it 2 minutes, right? Okay,
Okay.
so we've talked about stress a couple different times today. One of my favorite 2-minute actions is for if you're feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, that kind of panicked feeling, you're in that like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, is taking a deep breath and then getting yourself in what, as in yoga, like is the legs up the wall pose. So your back is flat on the floor. If you can do that comfortably, butt is all the way up against the wall, and you're in an L shape, right? So your legs are up against the wall, back is flat on the floor. And you can just kind of imagine being in that position.
Yeah, it's just
Take
relaxing thinking about it.
so relaxing, right? If you just like visualize it, you're like, oh, right. It's a very heart opening position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And
if
then
you
you're
notice,
pushing all
like,
the blood's going down through your legs, back up to your brain.
exactly. It's
Right.
such a great back of the leg stretch, right? Because we tend to be so tight there. But here's a really cool thing, Jill, is that when our legs are elevated above our hearts, we automatically go into that rest and digest state. We automatically
Mm.
go into
Hmm.
that parasympathetic mode instead
Right.
of being in that activated mode. And I'm a person who gets very stuck in my head. What I love about this position is it's a very somatic position, because the position itself tells every cell in your body, I am safe, I'm okay, I can relax. Because
Wow.
think about this.
Right.
Think about this.
Hmm.
If right, part of our brain is programmed to be out on the savannah or the prairie looking for the lion or the mountain lion, right? And that's when we're in that like we're like, we're like, oh, there's the mountain lion, got to run up the tree. Now think about this: if you are laying down, it makes me laugh every time. If you're laying down with your legs up against the wall, right? You are not in a vigilant pose. You cannot see if a mountain lion is coming. I'll speak for myself. If that mountain lion's coming, it's going to take me a minute to roll out of that position, right? And it's also all of your visceral organs are exposed.
Right.
And then again, from like a chakra perspective, like your heart is very exposed as well, right? And so
and your neck.
And your neck, exactly.
You're
so
vulnerable.
Very vulnerable, right? And so when you do it in a safe place, door closed, in your bedroom, wherever feels safe, right? You are literally just getting every cell in your body to come back to that homeostasis, that balance place. And that is a 2-minute thing to do. You do that for 2 minutes. It's like turning off your phone and turning it back on just kind of resets everything.
Perfect, right? So 2 minutes. So then you could do 2 minutes walking outside. So you're switching your brain. So you're right.
Exactly. Go make yourself a cup of tea. Go get some fresh air. I mean, even if it's just like, go get the mail outside. Get some fresh air. Just get up from your desk or wherever the situation is. Really picking something that takes 2 minutes. Is a great place. Go drink some water for 2 minutes. So often we can think like, oh my God, I have to buy this thing, or I have to get this newfangled this, or I have to like do all this things. Like, yeah, great, sure. If you want to do those things, that's wonderful. But start small, start simply. And, the other one that we have with us all the time and it's free is our breath.
Big one.
Right. So if we just take 2 minutes, and it's funny when you time yourself breathing for 2 minutes, 2 minutes is a really long time.
Right. That's hysterical.
It doesn't feel
mindful
like
breathing. We breathe all day, but really, if you're going to sit there, if you're going to sit and do some deep breathing, because sometimes I find myself, like even right now, when was the last time I took a calming deep breath?
Exactly. Right. It kind of, breathe very shallowly. I tend to contract, right?
You clench your jaws. And these are all things that are going to keep exacerbating. So the goal is to take away all of these things that are going to promote those symptoms of imbalance and do all these things to create that balance that your body naturally wants to be in.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the ways I like to think about it is, menopause can be a very inflammatory state, right? And so what we're trying to do is minimize inflammation in all the ways that we can, right? So we're eating an anti-inflammatory diet, like we've been talking about, lots of fruits and veggies, colorful herbs. Fresh herbs are great too. Big fan of the fresh herbs and spices. Those are also anti-inflammatory, keeping out the stuff that doesn't mean like we can't ever have it, but the things with higher sugar or the more processed foods. So eating in an anti-inflammatory way. Stress is inflammatory. So how do we manage our stress as best we can? There's like all these different things that if we're just kind of thinking about how do we cool these fires as much as possible, right? We're not going to no one's going to make estrogen or progesterone doing any of this, right? But what you're doing is creating a more stable platform for that process.
Indeed. And another thing that's coming to my mind, all of these things can increase weight. Right?
Oh, yes.
So poor sleep, you're eating willy-nilly all over the place, not having regular meals, your blood sugar is going crazy, your sex hormones are all over the place. You could gain some weight in the mid-abdomen, and that really stresses women out too. So all of these things that you're talking about, reducing inflammation, taking those calming herbs, like you mentioned, ashwagandha, shatavari root, the chasteberry, which is a vitex. Those are going to reduce inflammation. And then you brought up ginger root.
Yeah.
And I'll just throw in turmeric, which is right in that same warming.
Love the turmeric.
Like every day you could add that to stuff, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And
to keep the weight off, because I think that's like a bummer for women when they're like, oh man, I have to deal with stress and now I gained 10 pounds. What's up with that?
Absolutely. Yep. No. And I hear it all the time of people saying, I've done nothing differently and I just gained 10, 20 pounds. Right. And and I believe them. It's absolutely true.
Sure.
The thing is that your body is now asking for something different.
Oh, brilliant. Right. Brilliant. Right. Mm-hmm. So this is our, it's like a knock on the door, like, hello.
Absolutely. And so if I'm working with a woman in perimenopause or menopause on holistic weight loss, like I am not here for short-term fixes. I am not here for you want to fit into your dress in 2 weeks. Like, that's just not what I'm here for.
Good. Yeah.
It's really about understanding your body and then making these shifts and changes for this whole next chapter, and really understanding and listening to like what your body needs, so that we're giving it the energy that it needs to feel like it's thriving and it's energized, but also, it may not need the same amount, or it may not need things in the same ratios that maybe we were doing great with in our 30s or 40s, right? So it's really just transitioning into, what does my body need now? And I think that's just a beautiful question, and I remind me, Jill, how long have you been in practice now?
Oh, well, let's see, over 15 years.
Yeah, right?
A long time, it seems.
A long time, exactly. I know for me, I first got out of my program in my late 30s, went through my 40s, now I'm in my early 50s. And, I have had to re-listen to my body over the last 13 years. It's not like, I know we wish we could just kind of set it and forget it, be like, okay, body, like, this is what you need to feel amazing, and I never have to change anything ever again, right? And the big life lesson that I get to learn over and over again is that we are constantly changing. We are never stepping into the same river twice.
Right.
And so
I like that.
Even though I am here for transformation, I love witnessing my clients' transformation. I love being an agent of positive change in our world, right? Like, I know you and I have big dreams for our planet and for our children, right, for the future. And what that also means, like, oh, right, like, I might need to change some of my things that I thought were working for me that, like, oh, well, those are not working for me now, right? And so I think I encourage every woman in that perimenopause, menopause stage to keep that compassion for yourself, that I know everyone is doing the best they can, but, really like being kind and compassionate to ourselves, staying curious about your own body, curious about what's going to work best for you, staying connected, right? Because we're not meant to do this alone. Reach out to resources that are helpful, or find the people that are going to support you, talk with your girlfriends, right? But really, staying in connection, because those are just as important in this, health it's a health transition. It really, truly is a big transition that our bodies are going through.
It is. And there's hope out there. And I know there's a whole, we didn't talk about pharmaceuticals and natural, like wild yam, as far as like a natural bioidentical, which I encourage people, if they're going to do anything like that, just do it on the bioidentical thing. Right? Would you agree with that part?
Yeah, absolutely. And meeting with a doctor that's going to listen to you, and and then weigh your pros and cons, understand your concerns, understand your body. And, I would say on either end of the spectrum, if someone is like, gaslights you, doesn't acknowledge you, doesn't listen to you, find a new doctor.
For sure.
And at the same time, if they're like, oh my gosh, here, I'm going to hand this out like candy and not even ask you anything about yourself, that should be a little bit of bell of mindfulness too. Like, really working with a practitioner who's like, hey, listen, like, this is what I think might work best for you. These are the things that we're going to pay attention to. And it's not a one size fits all, right? So even if you are going to do something like a hormone therapy, right, is really finding a practitioner who's paying attention to you as a person, which is what all of our healthcare should be, right? Like, we're coming in as a human being with a complexity of a situation. And, I know that's why I love working with people, because I get to really look and pay attention to all of that. And then, obviously, neither you or I diagnose or prescribe or do any of those things, but I can help clients be advocates for their own voice. Yeah,
I love our roles. I really do. So, Michelle, where can people find you? Because we only have a minute or two left. So you have a website. Yeah, where can people find you?
It's all super easy. So it's all Health Coach Michelle.
Okay.
MICHELLE. So my website is Health Coach Michelle. My handle on Instagram is Health Coach Michelle. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. Lots of different places. I love working with folks one-on-one, and I do group programs. I do talks and webinars and corporate wellness. So lots of different ways for us to connect. And I do continuous glucose monitor groups. So that's a super, super fun way. If someone doesn't, feel like they need a whole big thing, but they want to join that group, I make it fun and educational and really insightful. So yeah,
that is so cool.
So much fun, Jill.
You're just like a wealth of great, fabulous information. So I just want to thank everybody for listening in today. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm Jill Troderman with Feeding the Family, and I've got Michelle Dwyer from, tell me your name, your health coach.
Health Coach Michelle.
Health Coach Michelle. You can find her. Yep. And then for folks, I also provide nutrition counseling at JillTroderman.com or Santa Cruz Holistic Nutrition.com. I've also got a great course coming up in 2026 for parents. It's 6 weeks called the Food Tree Holistic Nutrition 101. These are great courses to get the basics on how to feed your family. That's one of my core niches that I like to work with folks on with their parenting and how to raise healthy families. And so again, I've got Michelle Dwyer, and we have had a great conversation talking about healthy foods, balancing your hormones with great herbs, lifestyle, sleep, and all those good things. So everyone take a care, enjoy the holidays, and I'm going to be signing out. So thanks again, Michelle.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Hold on there, Michelle.
Okay.